So now we're going to get started. Like I said, this is Canvas Basics. I'm Herbert Serrano, Instructional Technology Lead, and everybody should be able to see my screen now. This is going to be about 45 to 50 minutes. Please hold your questions till the very end. And yeah, thanks again for joining. So I'm now sharing my screen. For those of you, if you have not previously accessed Canvas, the easiest way to get to it is to go to the CSUN homepage, which I'm currently at. From here, click on the My Northridge portal. This will bring a menu to fly down, I guess. And we want to click on Canvas. This will redirect us to the Canvas page that is on the CSUN IT website. Then we click on Log into Canvas. This takes us to the single sign-on page. This is the common sign-on page for several of the tools and resources that are currently used on campus. I'm going to click Log In. And we're now logged into Canvas. I am in my account. This first screen that we see, the default screen, this is called the dashboard. And in dashboard, you see all the courses that you are associated with, and that's as a teacher, that's as a student or a TA, or anything else that you've been added to in Canvas. Every course that is offered at CSUN automatically gets a Canvas shell. So if you've been teaching for a couple semesters or a couple years and you've never used Canvas, the first time you access the dashboard, it might be overwhelming. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to identify the courses for the current term, which is spring 2020, and how to have those be the ones that appear in the dashboard. So now I'm going to move over to the Canvas navigation, which is this black bar here, and I'm going to click on Courses. This will bring up all the courses that I'm associated with in alphabetical order, but it is capped at 18. So I'm going to click on All Courses, because once I click on All Courses, I see all the courses that I'm associated with, as well as past courses. But more importantly, I have the term of each course. So I'm going to click on the star that appears to the left of each course name that is for the spring 2020 term. So now I've selected all my spring 2020 courses, and I'm going to click on Dashboard. And when I do that, I no longer have all those other courses. Instead, I only have the spring 2020 courses. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, I've created this course called Test 100 Canv Demo. I will click on that. And now I am in that course. Oh, it still has items in it from the previous course. Let me clear those. So now I'm in my Canvas 100 Canvas, my Test 100 Canvas demo. And this is the naming convention used by Canvas. The information that it receives all comes from Solar, which is the enrollment system. And if the name is long or truncated, it'll appear the same way in Canvas. So there is nothing in this course at the moment because this is a brand new course and no one's ever done anything in it. What I'm going to show you is how to upload your files into Canvas and then how to make those easily available to your students. So I'm from within the Canvas course navigation menu, which is now this, I'm going to click on Files. This brings me to the Files area of Canvas, and to upload my files, I'm going to click on this Upload button. The screen is the operating system file selecting window. So I'm on a Mac, that's why it looks like this. If you were on a Windows machine, it would look like the Windows screens. I've selected my files, which are these 4, and I'm going to click Upload. Or actually, I'm going to click the Open button. That's what it says on a Mac. So I'm doing this from home. It's taking a little bit longer than it would be taking on campus, but that's because my home connection is not as fast as the campus is university network. But now all the items have been uploaded. I see the date. The creation date is when they were created in Canvas. It gives me the file size, and it gives me these green circles with white check marks. This means they are in a published state. When a student comes to the course, they'll be able to see them, but that's assuming the course itself is published. I'll get more into publishing later in this workshop. So now I've got my files here. I want to create a module. I'm going to click on Home. And again, the home is going to be empty. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a module or a container for my files. So I click on plus module, and here I will give it the name files. And I'll click add module, and I now have my modules named file. Now, the thing about modules, they are merely organizational items. You could create them by the week, by what's contained in them. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just using the name of what I will be placing in it. But they're just organizational items, and they themselves have nothing, but we place items into them like a container. So now I want to place the 4 files that I just previously uploaded, and I want to make them available here in my files module. So I click on the plus that is to the far right of the name files, and from the drop-down list I select file. Because I want to add all of these files, I will click add item, and now my files that I had uploaded are placed in the files module. Again, green circle means that they're published, but to the immediate left are these gauges. What these gauges are is the accessibility score for each item that it gets uploaded. My colleague, Kate Tipton, is also on the call. She is from the Universal Design Center. This functionality is part of a tool that we've implemented together called Ally, which checks for accessibility. Kate and her team can help you with any questions you may have regarding accessibility. So Kate, if you want to share the link to UDC, go ahead and please do. Now, I'm going to return to the workshop, and a thing about these files, I have a PDF, a PowerPoint file, a Word doc, and a PDF. I'm going to click on this Zoom Basics PDF, and it'll open up in Canvas in what is called the file preview. So the reason it's called a file preview is it's because it's just showing us what the file looks like. I could do things like click through to the links if I wanted to. But if this was a PDF form or a fillable form where inputs can be typed into it, or if this was an Excel worksheet, I would not be able to interact with it as if it was on my computer itself. So that's why it's called the file preview. And Canvas can natively display or preview the very common Office file formats. So that's Excel, PowerPoint, and Word. It could also display PDFs and image types like JPEG and GIF and PNG. Some of the more specialized file formats it will not display, but you could still upload them, and your students would be able to download them by clicking on the download link. So that's it for files. Now I'm going to move on to assessments. An assessment is any item that you create that the students would then create a response or create something in response to what you've given them, and you then assess it and give it points, evaluation, and feedback. In Canvas, you could do that by creating an assignment or a quiz or a graded discussion board, and I'm going to show you how to create those right now. The first one I'm going to show you is a simple assignment. So I'm going to come to Assignments from the course navigation. When I click on that, I'll be taken to the Assignments area. And right now there's nothing here, but I'm going to create a simple assignment worth 10 points, and then I'm going to have my students upload something to that assignment. So I'm going to click this plus assignment button. It'll open up this page where I'm now creating a new assignment, and I'm going to call it Sample Assignment 1. That is the name of the assignment. For the description, I'm just going to give a simple description. Please upload a file summarizing ... I'm going to make this worth 10 points. I'm going to leave this in the default assignment group, which is named Assignments. For display grade as, I'm going to leave it as points. For the submission type, I want this to be an online submission, but there are a couple other options. But for now, I want to leave it as an online submission, and I want my students to upload a file. So I will check File Upload, and when I click File Upload, I'm given a secondary option, Restrict Upload File Types. So I'm going to click on that because I only want to receive Word documents and PDFs. Again, that is because Canvas can display those files natively. So I type in .doc, .docx, and then .pdf. I am now explicitly telling Canvas, for this assignment, only accept these file formats. For plagiarism review, I'm going to leave that as none for now. These options I will leave unchecked. Now, the last area is the assign. I want to assign this to everyone in the class, so I will leave it to everyone. And I'm going to set the due date to next Friday, the 27th. So now I have set my due date, but if my students already have the assignment ready or someone wants to work on it this weekend, what I'll do is I'm going to set the availability starting today. So now I've got when it'll be available and when the assignment will be due, but I may have a student that is having a hard time for whatever reason. So I'm going to set the assignment until date to Sunday, March 29th. So now I have it set so that the assignment is set to the 27th, but I'm giving my students 2 additional days to submit it. If anyone submits it after March 27th, Canvas will record it as being late, a late submission. If anyone tries to submit it after March 29th, 11:59 p.m., so March 30th, they will not be able to upload anything. So now I've got all my settings, and I'm going to click Save and Publish. I have now created my sample assignment 1. It is worth 10 points. It's a file upload. The file type that this will be receiving is Word document or PDF. And the due date is March 27th. It's for everyone in the class. People could start working on it now and uploading it now, and I'm giving them 2 extra days. So now I'm going to use the student view function that's available for teachers just to demonstrate how a student would upload a file. I will click on Home. And from Home, there's this button called Student View. On my screen, it appears on the far right of the module, depending on your screen configuration and resolution. If you don't see it here, it will be at the bottom. So I'm going to click on Student View. And now at the very bottom, it says you are currently logged into student view. This is just letting me know that I can no longer do the things as a teacher because I'm viewing the course as a student. So I'm going to click on assignments because I want to upload something for sample assignment 1. I click on sample assignment 1. I get a summary as well as the details that I typed in. And I'm going to click Submit Assignment. When I click Submit Assignment, I have a file upload dialog here. And I click Choose File because I want to select the file. And I'm going to come here to Student Submission. I want to upload this CSUN Wiki sample. I double click on it. The students have the option to input a comment. It's not necessary, but they can if they want. I'm going to click Submit Assignment. Now Canvas has received the submission. I get a confirmation. Submitted with the date and the time, the name of the file, and there was no comments typed in, so nothing is displaying here. I'm now going to leave the student view, and when I leave student view, I'm returned to the assignment description and details. Now I want to draw your attention to the right-hand side of the screen, where now it says 0 out of 1 submissions graded. That's because when we did the student view, we did an actual submission, and Canvas is letting me now in the teacher mode know that there's a submission ready to be graded. I'll get back to the grading in a little bit, but now that we've created our assignment, I'm going to show you how to create a quiz, a relatively simple quiz at that. So going back to the course navigation, I'm going to click on Quizzes. There are no quizzes available at the moment because we haven't created one. I'm going to click on Plus Quiz to create a quiz. And when I create a quiz, I do it in two parts. First, I create the quiz environment itself. That's the first part. The second part is creating the actual quiz questions. So I'm going to show you how to create the environment first, and then we'll add the questions to it. So for the name, I'm going to call this Sample Quiz 1. For the quiz instructions, I'm just going to write, please answer the following 3 questions. You have 15 minutes. I scroll down for the quiz settings. I want this to be a graded quiz. Again, I'm going to leave it in the assignment group. Now for these options, I do not want to shuffle my answers, but I do want to set a time limit. I'm going to set a time limit of 15 minutes. If you want to set a time limit for a quiz that would be an hour and a half, you would just input 90 minutes here because the unit of measurement for time in Canvas is in minutes. I do not want to allow multiple attempts for this quiz. And I do not want to let students see their quiz responses. That's just because when I configure this quiz, I'm going to give my students a week and 2 days in which they could participate with the quiz. I do not want to let my students see the quiz responses because that means there is a chance that someone could take the quiz as soon as it becomes available, and then they could share the responses to the quiz with other people that have yet to take the quiz. However, if you want to let your students see the quiz answers, you can. That's entirely up to you. And you could always set the date that the quiz answers are shown to a date after the quiz deadline and the due dates and submissions and all that. But for now, I'm just going to remove this check mark. And I do not want to show one question at a time. And I will not set any of these settings, access code or filter IP address. Now when I get to the last part of the quiz, I'm going to set my due date to next Friday, March 27th. I'm going to make it available starting now. And again, I'm going to give them until Sunday, March 29th, so that way they have through the weekend to actually take the quiz. It'll just be marked late if they do it on a Saturday or Sunday. So now I'm going to click Save instead of Save and Publish because I've got my quiz environment built. And here I get a notice that says this quiz is unpublished. Only teachers can see the quiz until it is published. And now I just want to double check everything. Quiz type, graded quiz. Assignment groups, assignments. Okay, all this looks correct. I'm going to draw your attention to here. It says points. And there's no value for points yet because in Canvas, the points for a quiz is determined by the points in the questions that make up that quiz. It'll make more sense right now when we start adding questions. But now I'm ready to add the question, so I'm going to click on Edit once again. So now I have my quiz details, but I'm going to click to the right of the Details tab and click on Questions. So now we're at the question creation screen, and I'm going to show you how to create 3 question types, the most popular question types actually, which is multiple choice, true or false, and essay question. So the first question we're going to create is multiple choice. So I click on the new question. I'm going to leave the question name default, which is just question. And I'm going to leave it at multiple choice, which is the first option available. But I'm just going to click on it to show you the different question types that are available when you're creating your own quizzes. But I'm going to leave multiple choice. And here, this question will be worth 1 point. So here I'm going to, for the question prompt, I'm just going to type in roses are red, comma, violets are ... Down below the prompt are the possible answers. By default, Canvas wants to make the first possible answer the correct answer, but I don't want that. So I'm going to say violets are green as the first possible answer. Second possible answer will be blue. Third possible answer will be flowers. And the fourth possible answer will be green. Now, if you've already got a quiz that you're going to be bringing into Canvas and you're going to be creating within here, and you've got multiple choice questions, but you have more than 4 possible answers, and you want to add another possible answer, you could do that by just clicking on this plus add another answer, which I will do now. And now I have 5 possible answers. And this last one, I'm just going to say yellow. Now I'm going to save this question as is with the green currently set as correct answer, which I know is incorrect. But I'm going to show you how to change that. So I'm going to click Update Question, and I have now saved my first question. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to click on the pencil to edit this question. And I need to set blue as the correct answer. So the way to do that is when I hover my mouse over the second possible answer, which is blue, I see this light green arrow. And when I click on that arrow, it becomes solid green. And now I've defined blue as the correct answer. So I scroll down and I click Update Answer. And now that question has been saved with the correct answer. Now the thing with multiple choice and true or false is that those are graded automatically by Canvas. So that's why it's very important to make sure that you set the correct response. So now I'm going to show you how to create a true or false question. Once again, I click on plus new question. And from the drop-down, I am going to select true/false. I'm going to leave it to 1 point for this question. And here I'm going to say the sun is a hot ball of gas. ... And then answers true, false. I'm going to leave it like that. And I click Update Question. And I now have my second question. Now for the third question, I'm going to, once again, plus new question. And I'm going to do essay question. And since this is an essay question, it'll be take a little bit longer to answer. I'll have more consequence. I'm going to make this worth 8 points. And here I'm just going to say, I'm just going to type in blah, 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 gibberish, gibberish, gibberish. And I'm going to click update question. So now I have my multiple choice, my true or false, and my essay question. I'm now going to click save once again. It'll return me to the quiz details, or the quiz summary, and now I see that the quiz is worth 10 points. Sorry about that. Now, before I publish this quiz, what I want to do is I want to make sure that the quiz is in fact going to work correctly. So I'm going to use the preview function within the quiz. This is something that's only available to teachers, and it's just so that you could do some testing. Once I click on preview, you'll notice that the timer automatically starts running. And it says, it gives me when it's due and what have you. When your students take the quiz, that timer starts as soon as they click on take the quiz. And there's no preview function for them. So here I'm going to just go, roses are red, violets are blue. The sun is a hot ball of gas, true. And then here, I'm just going to type in gibberish. Worst essay ever. I click submit quiz. And since I'm the teacher and I'm using the preview function, I get to see the responses. Roses are red, violets are blue. That is correct. 1 out of 1 point. The sun is a hot ball of gas. That is true. 1 out of 1 point. And for question 3, since this is an essay question, it just says not yet graded. So the quiz score so far is 2 out of 10 points. So now I'm satisfied. I'm going to click publish. Now this quiz is ready for students to interact with once the course gets published. But I'm going to go back to student view. I'm going to click on home. Click on student view. I'm going to click on quizzes. And now, as the student, I'm going to click sample quiz and take the quiz. So here's the summary of the quiz, the details, and the instructions. Now when I click take the quiz, that 15-minute timer will start. If your students navigate away from the window, there's no pause, there's no stopping. As soon as that timer runs out, it'll automatically submit and give them record whatever they've answered. So for the first question, I'm going to, even though I know it's blue, I'm going to click green. Actually, no, I'm going to make this one blue. And then the sun is a hot ball of gas. I don't agree with that. I'm going to say that's false because I think it's a solid mass of hotness. Now for the essay question, I'm just going to type in gibberish. I scroll down to the very bottom and I click submit quiz. Now as the student, I'm done taking the quiz. I do not see the answers to the quiz because I have disabled that. But in the submission details, I see how long it took. I see the current score, 1 out of 10 with an asterisk, and it's saying some questions have not yet graded. So I'm going to leave student view, and we're done with the quiz part. And I'm going to show you how to create a simple graded discussion. You could use this to approximate some of the conversations and discourse that may have been taking place in the face-to-face meetings, but I'm going to click discussion. So I click plus discussion, and I'm going to call this sample discussion 1. And the prompt will be, please tell me about this week's readings. Worst prompt ever. So that's the prompt. If I wanted to attach a file, I could. but I'm not for now. I'm going to check off the graded option, and I'm going to say users must post before seeing replies. The reason I'm setting the users must post before seeing replies is because I do not want students to just regurgitate what someone else has said. So students must post before seeing responses. And then it's going to be graded. So here I'm going to say this is going to be worth 2 points. And I'm going to leave it in the default assignments group. I do not require peer reviews for this. And my due date will be again March 27th, available starting now. And it will be available until March 29th. Now I'm going to click Save and Publish. And here is the prompt. No one's responded yet. But I'm going to, once again, so now that I've got the discussion board created, I'm going to click on Home, and I'm going to respond from the student view. So now in student view, I'm going to go to Discussions. Click on Sample Discussion 1. And please tell me about this week's readings. And it says here, replies are only visible to those who have posted at least one reply. So I'm going to click Reply. And the readings were excellent. The authors hits blah, 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 blah. So now I'm going to post the reply. Now as a student, I can see what I responded with the date. I'm going to leave student view, and it'll take me back to the discussion board, and I see that I have a response from test student. So now we've created our assessments. I'm going to now show you how to grade and provide feedback to those. There's 2 ways within Canvas on how to do that, or how to get to the area where you do that. The first way I'm going to show you is how to do it from the assessment itself. So I'm going to once again click on Assignments from the course navigation. And now I have my sample assignment 1, my sample quiz 1, and my sample discussion 1. I want to give and grade sample assignment 1. Remember, we had 1 submission that needed to be graded. So from this assignment, I'm going to click Speedgrader. This will open Speedgrader in a new tab, and it's going to load what the student submitted. In this case, it is a Word document. And in the Speedgrader interface, I want to show you here a couple things. This is the name of the assignment that I'm evaluating. And then 0 out of 4 have been graded, so this means students. And this is the students whose paper I'm currently evaluating. I don't have a cover page on this, so this is really helpful, knowing whose item I'm actually evaluating. So in the Speedgrader tool, in Word documents and in PDFs, I could use the annotating tool. So I'm going to highlight. Sorry for the noise. I don't know why I muted this. So I'm going to use the highlight tool to just highlight this area here. When I'm done with my selection, I get a little comment field. Create intro. So this feedback is specific to this area. There's also a strike through tool and a text box and a freehand draw tool, all of which get their specific feedback to those. So now I've read the paper. It's great. It's excellent. I'm going to give the student 8 points. For assignment comments, great submission. You really ... Now I click submit. There are the general assignment comments and then the specific area comments. I'm done with this feedback. I am going to close this window, and I'm returned to the assignment page. And when I refresh it, I now see 1 out of 1 submissions graded, where before it was 0 out of 1 submissions graded. So the other way to get to the grading part of Canvas is by going through the Gradebook. So when I click on Grades, I am now in the Canvas Gradebook. It has all the students that are in the course. These are students' test accounts that I've manually added. And it also has all the assignments that are published in the course. So sample assignment 1, sample quiz 1, and sample discussion 1. Or I'm sorry, all the items that are created in the course. So now this little book with a circle here, that means that there's a submission that has yet to be graded. So sample quiz 1, I need to grade. So I'm going to click on that icon. And when I click on that icon, that turns into a 1 out of 10, because remember, the quiz has 3 questions, 2 of which are automatically graded. So I'm going to click on this box with the arrow. I'm now in, this is called the grade tray. And I'm going to click on Speedgrader from here. It'll take me back to that previous interface from the Speedgrader. And here it says the following questions need review. Question 3. Remember, multiple choice and true or false are automatically graded by Canvas, so that's why it's telling me take a look at question 3. So the score for this quiz is 1 out of 10 right now because the student got the first one correct, which is blue, but they got the second question incorrect. So they got 0 points. So now I go down to the question 3, which is the essay, and this is, okay, excellent. Real short feedback, and I'm going to give them 7 points. So now when I click update scores, I want you guys to take a look here. Right now, grade out of 10 is 1. When I click update scores, it is now 8 because I've graded question 3 and updated that score. So now this student has 8 out of 10 points. But what would happen if a student comes back and says, well, you know what, I don't think the sun is a hot ball of gas and blah, 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 and somehow changes my mind and I want to give them a grade or I want to give them points or credit for this. Even though Canvas graded this already, I, as the teacher, can override what Canvas says. So I'm going to give that student 1 point here, and let's say they make a compelling argument as to why they should get that last point. I'm going to give them the 8 points there. When I click update scores, they now have 10 out of 10 points. So I have overwritten what Canvas had assigned, and then I have changed what I had previously done. So I'm going to just provide some feedback. Great. I click submit. And now the feedback is recorded, the grade is recorded. And to get back to the gradebook now, I'm going to click on this icon here, which is the gradebook. So now when I go back to the gradebook, sample quiz 1 has been graded for test student. So now the last bit of grading I need to do is for the discussion board. From the grade tray, I click on Speedgrader. And the readings were excellent. The author, blah, blah, blah. Excellent. You know what? You get 1 point. You missed some part of it or whatever. And I'm not going to give any commentary here, but I'm going to click submit. And it's now saved. The grade's recorded. When I go back to the gradebook, sample discussion 1 out of 2 points, the student has 1. To the far right is the total number of points, or the percentage from the total number of points possible. Out of 22 available points, this student has 19, which translates to 86.36%. Now, I know some of you may be using gradebooks that are based in Excel, and if you're doing that, you're wondering, well, how do I get my grades out of here? In Canvas, you can export these values by clicking Actions. So when I click on Actions, I get two options. I could either import or I could export. I'm going to select Export. This is a very small and simple gradebook with only 4 students and 3 assignments. So it exports rather quickly. I'm now going to click on this file that got generated. This is a CSV file, and it is something that Excel can open. So this is the gradebook file that got exported. Let me just make these columns a little bit bigger. So the first row are the headers. The second row is number of points possible for each assignment. Sample assignment 1, 10 possible points. Sample quiz 1, 10 possible points. Sample discussion 2. Now, when you export the gradebook, it'll export only the items that have been graded. Here, these rows are the students. And you'll notice that test student has actual numbers, but Herbert test 01, 02, and 03 have no value. They don't even have a 0 because nothing has been graded. So that's the difference there. And now that this is in a CSV file, you as the teacher can copy and paste them and put them into any other area you'd like. So that's that, and that brings us, so I'm not going to save this. That brings us to the end of the grading part. So now I'm going to click back on Home, and I'm going to create another module because I want to put all my assignments in that module. So I'm going to click on plus module. I'm going to create this module, and I'm going to call it Assignments and Discussions. Again, I'm just keeping it short. Oh, why did it not give it the full name? Assignments and Discussions. So now I'm going to take the opportunity to show you that you can edit the name by clicking on these 3 vertical dots here. This is just more options. So now I want to add the assignments, the quiz, and the discussion board here. So from the drop-down, assignment, I want to add sample assignment, add item. I want to add the quiz, add item. And I want to add the discussion board. So my Canvas course is coming along nicely. But let's say if I wanted to schedule a virtual office hour or have class meetings via Zoom, I'm now going to show you how to schedule a simple recurring meeting. And then once you have that meeting scheduled, how do you then put it in Canvas? So I'm going to open another window here, and I'm going to return to the CSUN homepage. Again, I'm doing this because when I click on my Northridge portal, I have links to different tools. From here, I am going to click Zoom. And in my browser, I'm now in the Zoom homepage. Normally, there would be the Matador statue appearing here, but there's something weird happening with my browser. But what I want to do is from the Host a Meeting menu. When I click on that, I get a couple options, and I want to schedule a meeting. So this takes me to a Schedule a Meeting option. I was previously logged into Zoom, so I was not taken to the login screen. But now I'm ready to schedule my meeting, and for the topic, I'm going to say this is Test Course 100. Virtual office hours. I'm not going to give it a description. I'm not going to select a template. But here, I want this to take place every Monday at 3 p.m. I want it to be 1 hour. And I want this to be a recurring meeting. So I want this to repeat weekly, repeat once a week, every Monday. And I want to schedule these virtual office hours through the end of April. So now I see recurring meeting every week on Monday until April 27th, and it'll run 6 times. For registration, I'm going to leave that unchecked. Meeting password, I'm going to leave that unchecked. For the video, I'm going to turn my video on by default. And then for the participants, I'm going to turn their video off. Because when they join, I don't want their camera to be turned on in case they're running around or moving. Similarly, for the audio, I'm gonna leave just both enabled. But for the meeting options, I want to enable join before host. That means if I haven't started the meeting right at 3 p.m., but I have a student that clicked in at 2:55, they'll be able to get into the meeting. They'll just get a message that says the host hasn't started the meeting. I'm going to mute participants upon entry because I don't want any loud noises or anything possibly distracting. And then for the record meeting automatically, I'm going to turn that off. I don't want it to automatically record. And now I'm going to click Save. Once I click Save, I'm returned to the meeting details. And then here's the details for the meeting. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take this link and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to Canvas. And I'm going to create a new meeting, or I'm sorry, a new module that I will call Virtual Meetings. When I click Add Module, I have my module down here. And now I want to add the link to that meeting I just created. So I click on the plus icon. And now from the drop-down, I want to add an external URL or a link. And here I will paste that link I just copied. And then for the page name, I'm going to say this is going to be Virtual Office Hours. And I want this to open in a new tab. The reason I wanted to open in a new tab, if you have students that are using Canvas mobile app on their mobile device, you want it to open in a new tab because that'll force the Zoom app to then open rather than staying within Canvas. So I'm going to click Add Item, and now I've got my virtual office hours. I click here, it will open in a new tab, and it's going to try to open my meeting. Join video call. No, I do not want to join that video call because that would end our current video call. So that's now done. And then here, open virtual office hours in a new window because that's what we wanted it to do. So now my course is good. It's ready to go. I'm ready to publish it. All the work we've been doing right now has been in an unpublished course. That means that students, even if they're enrolled, would not be able to access or interact with this course. The exception, of course, being the student view, which is for testing purposes for teachers. So now I'm going to click on Publish. Now that the course is published, my students will be able to find it in Canvas, and when they log in, they'll see it. They'd also be able to interact with these items. So now let's test it once more using the student view. I click on student view. Wait a minute, why is it saying no modules have been defined for this course? Something's wrong. I'm going to leave student view. And what is wrong is I have some of the items published. Remember the green circle? But I don't have the module itself published. So I also need to make sure that the modules themselves are published. When I click on the publish, everything contained within the module is published as well. So when I click on student view now, not only can I see modules themselves, but I could see everything contained in the module. So I'm going to leave student view. Now my course is ready to go. But if I haven't been using Canvas so far, how would my students know to start looking at my course? So I'm going to use the announcements function in Canvas. I do that by clicking on announcements from the course navigation. When I click announcement, I'm now going to create a new announcement, and I'm going to say I am now using Canvas for the course. Hi everyone. I am now using Canvas. Please take a look. All right, and if I wanted to attach an attachment, say you've got a revised syllabus or something, you could attach it here. And I'm not going to use any of these options, but as soon as I click save, this message would go to all the students in the course. The caveat being that the course has to be in a published state in order to use the announcements. So depending on how your students have their notifications for Canvas configured, they'll definitely get the announcements next time they log in. They'll see that you've sent a message. And if they have their notifications enabled on the mobile app, they'll get a notification there. They'll also see if they have their messages forwarded to their email, they'll get a message in their email. So that brings us to the end of this Canvas Basics workshop. I did go a bit longer by about 5 minutes or so, but I'm going to open it up to questions. So for those of you, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. For those of you that have questions, go ahead and unmute your microphone, or if you want to put it in the chat, that would also be okay.
I have a question. This is Joanne. If I have a test that has multiple questions, mix and match, how do I just download the whole thing? I don't know how to do that.
I don't understand. What do you mean by having questions mixed?
Well, I actually teach ballet, and I have the terminology, and then I have a whole bunch of definitions, and I want them to pick the right definition for the word that they're looking at, right? So how would I do that? Or do I have to redo the test?
So I'm going to share my screen here. All right, so those questions, I'm going to click on quizzes. I'm going to click plus quiz, sample. I'm just going to go straight to the questions. You could have fill in the blank or drop down questions. If it's a matter of identifying the term to the definition, you could still do it as a multiple choice, or you could do fill in the blank. The thing with the fill in the blanks is that you have to type it in correctly, and then since it's ballet, there's going to be some possible French terms. The students might know they might know the word, they might know the phonetics of it, but they might not be able to type it correctly. So you would have to account for that as well. So you see, these are all possible answers. So any value you would put here. So I don't know. I don't know how to spell pirouette, but pirouette.
Ouette.
Yeah. So I could put multiple variations of it. What is a ballet spin called? I know that's incorrect.
Right.
So the students would be prompted with a blank, and then they would type in.
I see. So I would do it the opposite. Rather than saying pirouette, define, and then they have to pick from 15 choices. I would give them 3 choices for the one term. Is that how I would redo it?
Well, you could do it either one of those ways. It's really a matter of personal preference.
Okay.
I'll send you a link. If you could send your email address in the chat, and I'll send you a link to some of these question types.
Okay. Okay. So what I do is I just, okay, got it.
Yeah, because there's different ways to structure that type of question. It's really up to you.
Okay.
Because you could have, let me update this question, sorry. You could have it structured as a multiple choice or multiple answers. It just really depends on how you want to go about doing it.
Okay, I just sent it to you.
Okay. All right, and I had a couple questions in the chat. Let's see. Raymond says, the students got the assignments but not the announcements. How do I do that? I don't know exactly how that could have happened, because if the students got the assignment, when you say got the assignment, I don't know if you mean they were able to access the assignment. That's a passive act. They have to click on that.
Hi, Herbert. This is Ray.
Hi.
Yeah, they got all. I had I'm looking at it right now. I have 6 assignments that they have to do, but none of them are receiving the announcements that clearly say posted. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
They might have their notifications turned off.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I will email them then.
Yeah. You could also email them. And then just double check to make sure that the course is in fact published. So I'm going to click on home. Make sure that you have it in, that this button here is green. Because
do that once again. I'm sorry. Show me your screen. I was looking away. So go to home.
Yeah. So go to home.
It's there.
And then you just want to make sure that your course is in a published state. The announcements do not get sent unless the course is in a published state.
Okay, and the course unpublished, published, it's green right now.
Okay, then yeah, you have it in a published state. Your students probably don't have their notifications configured so that they see the notices.
You got it.
But yeah, as long as the course is published, if they're seeing the assignments in Canvas, I don't know why they're not seeing the announcements.
Okay, thank you so very much.
You're welcome. All right, and I had another question in the chat. And yeah, people are responding to Joanna. Yeah, matching. I was thinking of matching as well. I'll send her those resources. There's just lots of different ways to go about it. And once you find one that works for you, that's what I would recommend you stick with. For this Canvas Basics, I was just doing the simpler, easier question types. But yeah, so fill in the blank and matching. All right. And let's see. Someone else had another question. There's another question in the chat. Let's see. Joanne, I see you have another question, but let's see what Penelope says. Do I have to be in Canvas to have a discussion in Zoom? No, you do not. This workshop is Canvas Basics, so it's focusing on doing things in Canvas, one of which is just showing how to place a meeting to a Zoom meeting, putting a link to a Zoom meeting in Canvas. You don't have to use Canvas if you don't want to share Zoom. You could email that link to them directly. That's up to you. And Joanna also asks, if I want to give them a YouTube link, do I just put it right in assignments? No, I would, if you're going to be sending them a YouTube link, I would recommend just doing it through the modules. If you've got multiple videos or links like that, you could create a module called videos or something. And then when you click add, I'm just going to click on this virtual meetings one. use the external URL. That's one way to go about it. Or, and I didn't demonstrate this earlier, but you could just click Pages. Pages is another pretty easy function. But here, link to video, or video for this week. I'm going to call it, hi everyone, take a look at this YouTube video. You would paste the link here. Link to video. I'm just going to do youtube.com. I'm going to click Save and Publish. Nope, sorry. I need to highlight link to URL and then youtube.com, insert link. Now it has a link. When I click Save, I'm going to open it in a new tab and it takes me to YouTube. The reason I'm saying don't do it as an assignment is because if you have multiple videos that you create as assignments, those will all end up in your gradebook, and then you'll end up with a really cluttered gradebook. When you create an assignment, that's telling Canvas to prepare itself for some sort of interaction with the students. The students are going to be not just receiving that information, but they're also going to be either giving a response or uploading a file in response to that assignment. So don't do it as an assignment.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Does anyone have any other questions? Yeah, Elizabeth A says matching will do this for you and you don't have to deal with them misspelling things. Yeah, that's another good point, Elizabeth. With the matching, since you've already given all the answers and they're just matching the items up, you don't have to worry about doing all the different variations. But like I said, there's a lot of different ways to go about and create those types of quizzes, those types of quiz questions that you're considering. All right, so it's 1:05. I don't want to keep anyone longer than they have to be, but I could stick around for any additional questions if anyone has any other questions. I'm going to stop my screen share. Any other questions? Oh, one new message in the chat. Thank you. You're very welcome, Peggy. All right. So with that, I guess that brings us to a close. Kate, thanks for sharing your link. Thanks for being on board.
Hey, Herbert, I have one question for you.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you before you signed off, but you said assignments, Canvas will be looking for something. It seems like, as I'm thinking about it, a couple of those assignments that I've given, I've done that to. Can I copy and paste them into, say, Pages, and then delete them out of the assignments section?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I will do that.
All right.
Thank you. You guys have been great. Both of you have been great.
Thank you. I'm glad it was helpful.